number is increasing substantially, representing almost 10 trillion United States dollars. The dotted line blue represents the mitigation potential for financing needs in terms of climate finance. And the largest sectors where such potential can be harnessed is energy, transport, and buildings and infrastructure. This next slide is a very important slide. This slide represents what IDBs have done and we have been able to mobilize in terms of climate finance. As of 2024, IDBs, which are represented by African Development Bank, Asian Development Bank, Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, Council of Europe Bank, EBRD, European Investment Bank, IDB Group, Islamic Development Bank, IDB, and the World Bank Group, has been close to $137 billion in climate finance. This represents a 10% increase from the previous year, demonstrating the role and the growing role of climate finance. Of importance and the main takeaway is that $85.12 billion went to low and medium income countries, whereas 72% was for the public sector and 27% for the private sector. In the case of the Inter-American Development Bank Group, we were able to mobilize $5.6 billion United States dollars for low and middle income countries that are members of the IDB. This other slide is also very important because it provides you with the multilateral development bank landscape in terms of adaptation and mitigation across sectors. The climate financing portfolio in 2024 was divided into mitigation financing and adaptation financing, with the primary areas being in energy for mitigation, such as renewable energy and infrastructure, and adaptation, for example, for water, resilient infrastructure. The range of climate financing instruments is a blend of instruments that comprises advisory services, equity, grants, impact bonds, guarantees, investment loans, lines of credit, policy-based lending, and result-based lending. Investment loans still dominate the landscape. The substantial increase in funding demonstrates that climate finance should not be considered as environmental financing, but rather as an economic development strategy that can drive innovation, job creation, and competitiveness. Additionally, there is a significant innovation taking place in the financing space, with new instruments being utilized, such as the green and the green bonds that are based on the amount of green assets that can actually substitute assets that have been from more traditional energy assets, but also reserve-based financing that can really overcome barriers. In this slide, what I think is very interesting is that you can see that, for example, on my left side, in mitigation finance, the dominant mitigation finance in terms of commitment went for the energy sector. In terms of adaptation, it went also to the energy sector, but as well to financial services. And on the right side, the green colors that you see represent the investment loans. Entrepreneurship in climate solutions. Entrepreneurs play a pivotal role in advancing climate finance solutions by developing scalable, locally tailored innovations that address specific environmental challenges, and the agility and creativity enable them to design technologies, cutting-edge capabilities, and business models that complement national climate strategies. The key impact sectors where entrepreneurial activity is most impactful includes renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, water management, waste recycling, transportation, and data analytics. For example, startups that deploy solar microgrids for distributed generation in rural communities not only reduce the carbon emissions, but they also enhance energy access, energy affordability, and economic opportunities. Similarly, agri-tech firms leveraging precision farming technologies and techniques help optimize resource use and improve the food security under changing climate conditions. Entrepreneurs also bring strengths to the domestic value chain, create jobs, and foster inclusive growth. However, entrepreneurs also face challenges that are often limited access to finance, particularly for women, regulatory hurdles, and inadequate technical support. Climate finance initiatives that prioritizes small and medium and micro enterprises can unlock their potential by providing and accessing concessional funding, mentorship, and market linkages. By empowering entrepreneurs who are in this room today, stakeholders can accelerate the transition to a low-carbon economy while ensuring solutions are context-specific and socially inclusive. Why are MDBs important in climate finance, and why are those partnerships important? Multilateral partnerships are instrumental in scaling climate finance and fostering entrepreneurial ecosystems. These collaborations bring together governments, development banks, policymakers, decision makers, private investors, civil society, and academia to pool resources, share expertise, and harmonize policy. Technical assistance provided through multilateral platforms help countries design robust climate strategies, resilient policies, and regulatory frameworks that look at the long-term sustainability, reducing investment risk and mitigating regulatory risks. Partnerships with MDBs also offer convening power, creating networks that connect entrepreneurs with markets and financiers. For example, the Green Climate Fund and the Global Environmental Facility exemplify how multilateral cooperation can mobilize billions for climate finance projects worldwide. Beyond funding, these partnerships promote knowledge, exchange dissemination of information, enable stakeholders to replicate success through models across regions, but most importantly, help us to think together moving forward. This partnership also ensures inclusivity by integrating gender and social equity considerations into project designs. Ultimately, multilateral partnerships act as a catalyst for systematic change, aligning diverse actors toward common sustainability goals and amplify the impact of climate finance. So the question is, where are we going from here? In today's geopolitical changes, one might ask, what is the future of climate finance? And for all of us who have gone through the Melissa, we know that climate finance is very important in order to be prepared for climate events and natural disasters. The future of climate finance is shaped by emerging trends and evolving global priorities, including the use of AI technologies and machine learning that are expected to play an incremental roles in the year to come. New funding mechanisms, such as the loss and the damage fund established under international climate agreements, aim to address the disproportionate impacts of climate change on vulnerable nations. National climate finance roadmaps are becoming essential tools for guiding investment flows, helping decision makers set policies, and ensure alignment with long-term decarbonization targets. These roadmaps are the tools that help integrate public, private, and community-based financing, creating a unique ecosystem that leverages diverse resources and mitigates risk. Digital technologies are expected to enhance transparency and efficiency in climate finance transactions. Additionally, the rise of impact investment signals a shift towards financing models that not only prioritize measurable social and environmental outcomes, but also sustainable long-term financial returns. Challenges still persist. The need for stronger governance framework is critical. Capacity building is essential, and mechanism to de-risk investment in natural disaster and high climate regions is essential. As climate impacts intensify, the urgency to scale up finance will drive innovation and collaboration, positioning climate finance as the cornerstone of sustainable development in the decades to come, as well as an essential tool to prepare countries for building resilient infrastructure. Last but not least, CARICOM. CARICOM can play a very important role at the level of region. It can provide an avenue to support member countries with disaster risk management and a unified response, such as crafting a regional approach to the essential climate finance mechanism that will be available to the Caribbean nations. In addition, from an entrepreneurial viewpoint, the potential to work in an integrated regional fashion can help overcome economies of scale in the Caribbean region, which in turn will enable innovative mechanisms to be created. Lastly, partnerships that are already existing could be enhanced through new instruments, innovative financing instruments that could be deployed for both the public sector and the private sector across the Caribbean. Thank you.
Put your hands together one more time, everyone. One for the mic here now. Put your hands together. One more time. Thank you so very much for your presentation, public information. But before you leave, I'm not sure if anyone has any questions, but I wanted to ask a question here. So I have one question. Put it together for some persons who may hear what is happening and want to fully understand it a little bit more as it relates to climate financing. Because from your presentation just now, we understand that financing has been provided. There's been an increase of about 10% over the last year. Roughly about $130 billion has been provided in climate financing. But what that does for Jamaica, and why it's important to Jamaica, because we are situated, we are prone to the impact of climate change. We got a hurricane last year, we got one the year before. Chances are we may get another one in another 5 years or in 3 years. So how we prepare as a country is very important. And I heard the Prime Minister last night remind us that how we rebuild as a country is more important than how fast we rebuild. Because how we rebuild must be resilient as a country. So entrepreneurs can really and truly benefit in small ways. For example, climate change has impacted when it's really and truly hurricane season and rain season. Now, what they can put in place maybe to harvest water, what technology they can put in place to harvest water, for example, or to solar energy, and how is that we can provide financing to entrepreneurs to get these in place, right? So we want to ensure. But we have a question here. You want to come and pose a question for me, please?
Hello. Afternoon, everyone. Conrado from KPMG. The Caribbean region is basically at the forefront of climate-induced disasters. Do you think it is ethically or economically right to invest in high energy AI infrastructures, which we know right now is causing a lot of pressure and stress in the power grids up north? Or is it our collective or regional responsibility to demand and push for green AI to basically mitigate the impact for islanders?
I think that the future is only going to be very much influenced by AI technologies. Everybody knows that. And I think it has to be a two-pronged approach. You have to work at the level of the region, because this is really where together you can think better in terms of the instruments, in terms of the framework, in terms of economies of scale to become attractive. But working at the country level is also very important. And new technologies very much depend as well on energy and electricity costs. And this is really where, at a certain point, you have to become competitive as well. Because electricity cost is going to enable the growth of infrastructure, of resiliency, of AI technologies that you're talking about. So I think it is really important to look from a regional perspective and look also at the challenges that are in the country itself, and then draw a roadmap as to how to overcome those obstacles thinking about the long term.
All right, that's good. Wonderful. Any more questions? We have time for one more question. Okay, wonderful.
Camille Facey. The picture we saw of that SRC project and the winner of that project, the technology that was being used to throw the flags, are the winners of those competitions provided with financing to help to roll out their winning projects? Is the solution end-to-end, whereby somebody who wins a competition then is provided with financing and support to develop that business?
So let me make sure I understand your question. Your question is for projects
like the one you had on screen,
such as
the SRC, the Scientific Research Council. You showed us the picture of someone who had won a competition rolling out agricultural technology. And so I am inquiring, does the competition end there, or is support provided to the winner of that kind of a competition to help develop their business and roll out that kind of, in this case, resilient agriculture?
This is a really good question because this is a bit more differentials from commercial banks. When we work with a multilateral development bank such as IDB, of course we provide financing, which would be usually long-term financing or grants, but a lot of the work that we do and our value added is the expertise and working together with the project. So the IDB group has a public sector side where we work with governments, and we have a private sector side called IDB Invest and IDB Lab for SMEs. In the case of the private sector, whether it will be a project financed through IDB Invest or work alongside our clients once they have secured the financing with our funds to help them grow their business according to indicators that we have defined together. So your question if the financing of the IDB group stops from the project has received it, my answer is no. We spend a lot of time and spend a lot of efforts with our staff and our people to work alongside these clients, to guide them, to help create capacity and knowledge and help them grow to attain the objectives of the project.
Okay, so maybe there's an opportunity for the local financiers to then link with some of these winners of these competitions.
Yeah, I agree. So there is an opportunity there that we can explore, especially as a local financiers. But it's something that we can definitely look into from that local level. We might do a transfer of these projects in most cases. But thank you so very much, Ms. Marisol. Can you put hands together everyone for Natasha Marisol this afternoon, who gave us a very insightful, data-packed presentation. Thank you so very much, and all the very best. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carlton, for ably moderating that. And again, another round of applause for Natasha Marisol, who not only presented well, but presented for us during lunch and kept us quite captivated. And you know, you can know when you're at a conference that everybody's really enjoying that really conference, because we would have seemingly skipped over a segment. And the number of people that came up and said, well, if we skip over the segment, and you know, sometimes when you skip over a segment, people say, yeah, not at the JSE Conference, we want it. So, we are ready now for our fireside chat, and our fireside chat is on cybersecurity. It will be led by Stacey Burke, who is B2B Senior Manager, Pre-Sales Engineering at Liberty Business. That's the business-to-business Senior Manager at Liberty Business. And she will be joined on stage by Mr. Kevin Gordon, who is Chief Executive Officer, Simply Secure Group from Liberty Business. Please give them a round of applause. I know it's after lunch, so we are powered up with energy, so we need more applause. Can we get some more applause? Thank you. What if I told you that IBM's data breach cost report for 2025 revealed that the global average cost of a data breach was approximately $4.4 billion USD. Yes, you heard that right. Let that sink in. And if my math is correct, this translates to approximately $12,000 US per day. Doesn't that sound like a fantastic investment opportunity? Doesn't? All right, but unfortunately, this is not legitimate business. Statistics show that 75% of organizations that report an AI-related security incident lacked proper AI access controls, and organizations that lack AI governance policies translate to 63%. The statistics are very alarming. And I'm putting out my disclaimer here. I am not trying to get you paranoid, but don't you agree that this is cause for concern? I'm not hearing my audience. I know that everybody should know with full and all perked up with coffee, so let's talk, let's have a conversation today. But let's talk about though why financial institutions and capital markets are a prime target for cybersecurity-related incidents. What makes them so vulnerable? It is a simple answer. There is a heavy reliance on technology, and that reliance keeps growing. And don't get me wrong, this is not a bad thing, because we're operating in a digital space. And digital channels in these capital markets are expanding. But what happens is that as the digital channel expands, it creates more access points that we need to protect. And think about it. Every day, millions of transactions flow through these systems. And interestingly, this is packed with highly sensitive data. So to a cyber criminal, this translates to pure gold. Wouldn't you agree? Right. I think that is the more coffee. However, what is interesting though is that it's not just the volume of transactions that are attractive. It is the value of what is moving. And think about it. You have data, money, trust, all in motion at the same time. So naturally, it's gonna grab their attention. Think of it this way. When a cybersecurity breach happens, we know that there are financial losses, operational disruption, and there is a high cost of recovery. And it's debatable, but maybe I can safely say that most organizations can and will recover from this attack. But the real damage shows up later, and this is what we talk about, long-term reputational damage. Once trust is broken, I'm sure we can all relate that once trust is broken, especially investor trust, it is incredibly hard to earn it back. Add to that, Kevin, the regulatory scrutiny and the risk of legal penalties. So this, for me, is where cybersecurity is not so much about technology, but in the context of what I've shared, it seems to be a business-related threat. And I am 99.999. Let me step out on a limb. I'm 100% sure that no organization wants this to be a headline with this kind of news. Do I have consensus? Right, that's very carrying on. But you know what is alarming to me, Kevin? Is that many of these attacks do not rely on expensive or sophisticated tools. The tool or the primary tool, the prime target, is cheaper. It is more efficient. Can anyone tell me what that tool is? You can shout.
Social media.
All right, so it's the human factor. It takes just one person from any organization. It's one click, one six-digit moment, and bam, you're compromised. And this makes me think about the concept of cyber self-defense, because we have to be so aware. Every email, every moment of distraction is an entry point. So Kevin, with all that I've shared, I am sure you will agree that we are operating in a war zone. And the internet seems to me to be that battleground. So how can we arm ourselves to recognize and defend against these cyber assailants?
I feel like I need to stand up now. She's sitting on her sister, my gentleman. There are three components, I think, that every company, every capital market, every financial institution needs to be aware of. I want to steal a moment from a good friend of mine. We had a conversation. The three components are your people, your process, and your technology. Now, all three needs to be in good balance. They need to be equalized so that you have harmony between all three systems. You can't have the people working and the process not in place. You can't have the process in place and the technology is not here. I'm going to delve into that a little bit more as we go through the presentation. Actually.
All right, thank you, Kevin. So, from your perspective and working on the front line of cybersecurity, what would you say is the biggest misconception leaders have about cyber risk in capital markets today?
That's a very good question. I say we overestimate our ability to respond to a cyber threat. And I say this because the companies that we do instant response for, and the companies that we sometimes have a conversation with before there's an incident, there's always a misconception that, man, I'm okay. I'm all right. The tools I have, the things I'm doing, it's fine. I don't need to do anything else. I don't need to change. And we fail to realize that the threats are changing. The landscape is changing every single year. What we had last year is not enough for this year. What we had 3 years ago is not enough for this year. And I'm going to use another phrase. They always say, if it's not broke, come on, I need to hear it. If it's not broke, that's wrong. If it's not broke, it doesn't mean that it's broken and you don't know about it. That is sometimes the problem. You know, we walk into sometimes these conversations, because we think that cybersecurity is okay. You know, the one guy we have, he's doing a good job, he's fine. So, he has not complained to us about a cybersecurity problem until it becomes a problem, because we did not really see it. And then the other bit is we underestimate the risk. The risk in the business. We sometimes don't test, and I don't remember who spoke about it yesterday. We can't monitor, we can't upgrade and update what we're not measuring. In cybersecurity, you cannot fix what you're not assessing. How many of us here are following guidelines and frameworks that are globally recognized? We have the Jamaica Data Protection Act. How many of us are integrating that into a policy framework that guides and governs our operation? How many of us are testing those policies? When there's an incident, when there's a hurricane, I'm sure everyone knows what those protocols are, right? We know who to call, we know what to do. Or what about your cybersecurity? Why do we wait until it becomes a problem before we take action? And that's where I think some of the issues are. We wait until it becomes a problem, so we underestimate what those risks are.
And I say, a lot to consider. But Kevin, let me build on what you have shared. When a cybersecurity incident happens, and you notice, I said when, not if. How can capitalists protect their critical assets from being pillaged?
That's another very good question. Let me just say to you that if you are in the middle of an incident, I would say 90% of the time, that information, that data is gone. If you have been compromised, if there's a data breach, and there is a ransomware event, you can almost be guaranteed they have already taken what they needed. Now, ransomware is the last component of the attack. It's the last stage in the attack. That's when your computers are compromised. That's when my good, this is my good friend, because they're none here. That's when persons will see on the screen, you're being compromised, you need to pay $200 million to get your data back, right? So there's no one here that I know that has been compromised because you're all doing the right things. Amen? I'm not, you're not saying amen with me. So no one here has been compromised. But that's when everyone sees it. So at that point in time, it's almost always too late. But there are things that you can do before that. But if you're in that stage, the first thing I say is don't panic. Don't panic. And so those who are CEOs and CFOs and I know it's crunch time, especially finance, your regulators, it's going to be on you. You have 72 hours to report to the commissioner. Yeah? Take 48 hours and start doing the investigation. Breathe. Don't rush your IT personnel to have them start bringing systems back up because you will miss a step. In an instant, you need to follow the IR plan from start to finish. A part of that is gathering as much information as is possible, understanding how you start doing the containment. It's okay to plug the system out. It's okay to break the glass. Take that hammer, a sledgehammer to your internet, break that connection. Break the connection. It's okay. But having broken the connection, then you have to start activating your incident response plan. If you don't have one, put one together. Put one together. So you're not worried, flustered. What do I do? Who do I get to call? I know I'm going to call communication because I need to have conversations internally. I know I need to have a conversation with my staff members. I need to have a conversation with my investors. I need to have a conversation with the board. You need to have a structure in place, something that is already done, drafted a template. So you're not worried about it. So there's an incident, okay, no problem, you're breathing. Now let's activate what we've already done. And this IR plan is not, you're not waiting until something happens. You're testing that process. And then there are other pieces as well. One key component of this is investigation. You need to know how the hacker or the threat actor got into your systems. You need to know the point of entry. That part is critical. If you have missed that, and if you have forced your IT director to bring those systems back, and he cannot produce a report to you to say he came through that door, and this is how much data they took. You have missed a step, and you have just opened yourself up to be hacked again. That is critical, because then we call it double ransom. Persons have bypassed key processes because they want to get back, save reputation. I want to protect my business. I don't want to have the conversation, this uncomfortable conversation with my board members and my shareholders. It's uncomfortable. I'm going to be in the news. I want to get back as quickly as possible. I understand it. It is real. But at that point in time, you have to accept the reality. It happened. And once you've accepted it, walk through your process and then start recovering your data. And be as open and honest with the public as you possibly can. Follow the process. Don't lie that nothing has been taken. Don't say that this did not happen. It will come out at some point in time. It's going to be worse if you have not done the right thing first time around.
Don't you agree that that's an interesting discussion? I take that as a vote of confidence. So, Kelly, what stands out for me is that we have to reframe how we think about cybersecurity. So it is evident that we have to ingrain the thought of security and protection in every decision that we make. And talking about decision, I think I see Delano Thompson, my valued partner or cybersecurity partner from Simply Secure Group. Did I see my valued partner? Our valued partner. You're also my valued partner.
I appreciate you.
Awesome. All right, so Delano, as I mentioned, is head of sales for Simply Secure Group. Delano. So we have spoken about the impact of the human factor, right? But this is where it gets really interesting. We have officially entered what I call the age of AI-powered criminals, right? Faster, smarter, relentless. And the statistics that I mentioned earlier show that AI-related incidents in 2025 were 97%. So let me put this to you. How does AI shape the threat landscape for capital markets? And what does resilience look like in this new reality?
So based on artificial intelligence, it's really fundamentally changing the landscape of capital markets. And a few things come to mind with that. the speed, right? The speed of which, the threats are coming. There's a scale, wider scale, everything is going on, and also the sophistication of the threats. Now, what that does, it creates a situation where there's operational risk, and it's shifting from a linear state to being more compounded. Linear meaning, say a trader, gets attacked by or gets tricked by a phishing, right? So that only affects one account, right? They can go in quickly, go to the remediation process. So we'll, reset their credentials, we'll then go and isolate that device, and we move on from there. Compounding now is a little bit more complex in that as long as the activity is going on, it becomes much more dangerous and it's also happening faster. So that would look like the same phishing threat attacking multiple traders in the environment. And that now would create a situation where it's affecting multiple systems, multiple teams, and a wider organization. And for as long as that remains, each step in that process affects or makes the situation worse, and it's also happening a lot faster. So that's the rate at which things are going, and we have to consider. Now, if you look at what's been going on, especially in the capital markets, deepfake. You get a phone call, you don't know you're being recorded. You don't know the video in terms of the likeness is being recorded. That turns around for an executive to, be, how would I say, after they use that information on the call, pretend to be that executive. They will probably, authorize unauthorized transactions, make some decisions, when you're not seeing their face. In this case, you're seeing his face, his or her face. You're hearing his or her voice, right? So that's another aspect of that. As it relates to the speed and the accelerated things I mentioned earlier, is the acceleration of it that's causing that problem. So it's much faster. But resilience, to answer the second part of that, resilience now looks like the withstanding of what you're undergoing. So we have to now assume that these threats are going to happen. We can't say that we're safe. Kevin alluded to it earlier. You cannot just feel that what you have in place now is what's going to work for you year on year, right? So what that looks like, we have to protect our AI models because they are so targeted. So in the capital market space, if AI is being used to assist trading, maybe assisting in settlements and things of that nature, you have to ensure that you're in control of that process. So the AI technology is being targeted, so you have to protect those. And you also have to use your AI models that you're protecting to protect the organization. So that's the defense now as a tool in and of itself. Now when that happens, what we're creating there is a situation where we can use the AI tools to have the automated detection take place, is monitor the behaviors in the environment, and so the remediation can be taken much swifter in that environment. So those are a few things where resilience is concerned.
All right, thank you, Delano. So we have spoken about cyber risk and its impact. But as Jamaicans, we like to keep it real, right? So Kevin, we need to ground this new reality. You and Delano will tell me that this is the market reality check. So I need you to share with the audience a real world experience where an insider threat, talk about the human factor, where an insider threat impacted the wider capital markets.
So we've had, I would say, not the fortune, but the misfortune of having some tough conversations with persons who are not our clients, then became clients. There were two that, for me, stood out. A major financial institution won't call the market, won't even allude to how close they are to us. But that major institution had what they thought at the time enough to protect them for that point. I remember having a conversation with the CEO when they called us, and all the systems were done. So they weren't able to process any transaction. Visa, MasterCard shut all services down. The regulator was in arms if there's an issue, and they were down for at least 2 weeks. I remember when we had the conversation with the CIO, he said, as far as he was concerned, he thought he was protected. When he started doing the investigation, he was infected 12 months before. Somebody sat in his system for 12 months, he had no clue. Then they exploited, took all the data, compromised the system, shut it down, and then he had to start recovery.
Oh, that's scary. Switching gears a bit, and Kevin, I'll be back, but I have to stand up on this one because I need to do a little post-checking now. So I came across an interesting concept that changed how I think about cybersecurity. It's that cybersecurity is not technology, but it is a business management tool. And what I mean is that it is one that belongs at the strategy table, right? And I say this because when we protect systems and data, we're really protecting trust, confidence, and long-term value. Don't you agree? All right, so, which brings me to the question that quietly shapes every budget meeting. You know, the one that justification conversation, or the slide you over-prepare for the CFO. You have to inhale and exhale the deep breathing movements that you take before you speak. Do we have any CFOs in the house? All right, so safe space. Is there anyone here today who has had to explain why security is funded before something goes wrong? My team manager, all right, so it's all right, you can keep your hands down. But now, here's the real question. Is cybersecurity just the cost of doing business? Or is it a fundamental investment? And what I mean, the price of trust in today's capital markets.
Sorry, Susan. So with that question, let's say cybersecurity comes at a cost. I'll say answer is both. So it comes at a cost whether or not we invest in it. The cost when you invest is the implementation, the maintenance of the environment to ensure that everything is running smooth, right? And you're protecting the organization from the emerging threats that are plaguing it. The cost now when you don't invest in it is exponentially greater, primarily because you're facing financial loss. There is the reputation damage that you take. There, for many cases, are regulatory fines that cover it. Not to mention, you will lose the trust within your customers. And in capital markets, compliance, trust is really what the product is. But compliance, trust, and uptime are non-negotiables, right? So that's something that we have to think about where that's concerned. Now the cost, as Stacey had mentioned, the average cost for ransomware is what, $4.44 million. So if you look at that, right, there was one particular case in the US, and we do have some around in the Caribbean here and later. But there was one that went at $10.22 billion, which was the outlier in the US, right? So they're above the average, greatly above the average, right? But the situation now is that once these things are in place, we have evolved from cybersecurity being necessary evil to it being more of an investment, right? And it's also our strategic investment, and it's very important that we have these things in place. So a part of the investment is that it becomes a key advantage where it prevents the malicious activities from taking place in your environment. Right, so that's one key thing. And another side of the advantage is that within capital markets, where it comes to valuation, right, organizations that do have well-defined cybersecurity, well-documented cybersecurity program is viewed as low risk, right, and as a result, they are able to attract high valuations. There's an aspect of due diligence. So, in merger and acquisitions, it's an aspect where, those experts will usually recommend one organization over another. And it's usually because of the cybersecurity program that they have in place, the strength of it. And there's also the attraction of investors, right? Once you have a strong cybersecurity program in place, you won't have problems attracting investors to your organization, especially in the capital markets, the realm of capital markets is concerned. So those are very serious things to consider. So the answer, again, is both.
Okay, thank you. And my side is getting hot, which brings me to the final point as we take down the curtains. Kevin, in a nutshell, what's the one message you want everyone to walk away with today?
Don't try and do everything on your own. Say it takes a village to raise a child. It takes collaboration, public, private, to bring this together. You guys are efficient and effective as financiers. You are effective and excellent in capital market. You are skilled in those areas. There are also other persons who are skilled in cybersecurity. Liberty is one such partner we work highly with them. Find partners. We're not just talking about vendors. Find a partner you can trust, have this conversation. Take responsibility for your own environment. Assess those risks. Don't leave them to chance. Don't wait until it's too late. We're here to assist you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for your time. Stay out there. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Another round of applause for Stacey and Kevin and our guest presenter. I know when Kevin told that story about the cyber attack, everybody got nervous in here. So when Stacey asked about the CFO, not a one CFO picked up their man, not a one CTO. You think everybody picked up their man? Thank you very much, team, for that robust, engaging performance. So we're in the last lap of this afternoon, and the fireside was hot, and things are getting even hotter because we're going to be looking at creative instruments that enhance market liquidity and investor inclusion. Ladies and gentlemen, to moderate this session, I want to give a big round of applause to Mr. Javon Keys. That's not a big round of applause, though. A big round of applause to Mr. Javon Keys, IMC and Communications Practitioner. And keep the applause going as we recognize the Liberty Business Team. If you look at me without your glasses, I kind of look like Javon. Ladies and gentlemen, while Javon gets here, why don't we just go ahead and introduce our panelist. Director of Corporate Solutions and Investment Banking at Scotia Investments Jamaica Limited, Ms. Sarah Cumming. Please welcome her to the stage. We're also going to welcome the Chief Executive Officer of Proven Wealth, Ms. Luana Williams. I hear the Proven team. From NCD Capital Markets Limited, Mr. Christopher Buchanan, Senior Vice President of Investment Banking.